Hi, this is Tammy Silvers of Tamarini's. Now, I may be starting a few seconds early, but I'm a little excited to bring this tutorial to you. So, I'm one of 9 designers that is participating in the Fiesta de Azucar blog hop, which are sugar skulls. So, the premise of the blog hop, there are 9 different designers. Each one of us designed a sugar skull. Now, if you don't know about the history of sugar skulls, it's actually pretty sweet. They are kind of scary looking. I know some people think they're kind of gothic, but the idea behind it is to celebrate your ancestry. And the skulls are decorated in motifs that symbolize those that have passed and what reminds you most about them. So anyway, each of the 9 designers designed a different sugar skull, and the whole idea behind it is quilters can come, purchase the blocks, make a nice little wall hanging at the end of the blog hop, and have a sugar skull quilt. So this is my sugar skull. This is Butterfly Dreams. This one was created in honor of my mother, who passed away 2 years ago, and the motifs on it represent her. And if you want the backstory, go to the blog hop and hop around and see what everybody has to say about their sugar skulls. But all of this got me thinking, hey, you know, as many quilters as there are out there, not everybody is a quilter. But just because you're not a quilter doesn't mean you can't make your own sugar skull. Because, to be honest with you, these are fused. Now, mine does have stitched applique on it, but you don't have to do that stitching if you don't want to. You can just fuse and create a piece of art. So I thought what I would do is show you how to go about that. Still making this same sugar skull, but instead of it being a quilt block, now it can be a piece of art. So here's what I'm doing. Gathering up all of my supplies, and for me to make this a piece of art that's not a quilt block, I'm going to start with a canvas, just a basic plain white canvas. Okay, now I'm not going to draw or paint on this. Those are not my superpowers. I am going to use the fabric. So I've got my piece of canvas. I've purchased and downloaded my pattern, which has all of the instructions on it. And instead of this being a quilt block with a base or a background fabric, which would be the black, I am going to still have a background fabric, but this time I've cut a large black square. And stay with me because I'm doing this all on my lonesome, so I can't zoom in as much as would be ideal. But I've cut this piece of black fabric so that it's larger than the canvas. And when I'm finished, I'll be able to wrap this fabric and staple it to this canvas, so then I'll have a sugar skull on the canvas that I can hang up on the wall. How easy is that? So how do you get from pattern to sugar skull? It's actually pretty easy. Now, what I do is I use fusible web. Now, my fusible web of choice is Steamacine 2 Light. And you can actually purchase this in a craft store or fabric store in a pack of 5 9 by 12 inch sheets. So they're really easy. I've got one already open. So when you pull out the sheet, it's paper on both sides. Now you may not be able to see it, but trust me here, on one side is a light yellow grid. That is your tracing side. The side without the grid is your quick release side, because in between these 2 layers is the sticky, the fusible. Okay, so we have that. You're going to want your luscious collection of fabrics. Ooh, who doesn't like pretty colors? And these are all batiks. Island Batik, favorite company in the world. So these are Island Batiks, some of their solids, and choose an array of colors that work for you. Obviously, each pattern is going to give you suggestions for making it look exactly like the design. You've got your pattern. Now the instructions are on here, but in addition to the instructions, you've got the templates. All right, it looks kind of scary, I know, but it's really not. Because what you're going to do is you're going to take these templates and you're going to place your fusible on top of it. and then using a pen. I don't recommend a pencil because the line is going to be really light and it's going to be really hard to see. In fact, I like a fine tip Sharpie. It's going to give me a really nice, really precise line, and I'm going to be able to tell exactly where I need to cut. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the template, the fusible, on top of my pattern, and I'm going to trace. Sorry, that beeping was my iron going off. But I'm just going to trace my shapes. So I don't know if you can see, but I've traced a shape. So after I trace my shapes, I've got a smaller one here. And this is how I do it. There's a lot of different ways, and that's one of my favorite things about quilting is there's more than one way to approach almost anything. But let's say I needed to cut this circle out of my black fabric. Ran away from me. Then the circle is drawn on the yellow grid side. Remember, that's your tracing side. I don't have anything drawn on the plain side, my quick release side. So what I like to do is I like to peel off that paper from the back, which is going to leave me with fusible, and you really can't see it because it's virtually invisible, but trust me, there's a sticky little mesh right there. It's going to leave your fusible, and you're still going to have that side with the grid that has your shape. I'm going to place it down on my fabric, and then what I would do is I would take a hot iron with steam and I would iron it to fuse, because what I'm doing then is I'm melting that sticky onto the fabric. Okay? So once it cools, and this is a big secret to working with fusible. I know we get really excited. We're like, we just can't wait to cut those shapes out and go ahead and start creating our masterpiece. But really, one of the big secrets is once you iron that traced shape onto the wrong side of your fabric, you want to let it cool. If you don't let it cool and you go to cut it out, you have a sticky mess, a big sticky mess, and we don't want that. So practice a little patience. It's a woo-saw moment. You know, you got to get your zen on. Let it cool. Once it cools, then you take your scissors and you're actually going to cut out on that shape. Okay? So, a lot of little pieces to make these sugar skulls, but the effort is well worth it because you're going to trace, you're going to fuse, you're going to let it cool, then you're going to cut the shapes out. Now, guess what? It's kind of like that magic moment, you know, when they are on the cooking shows and they slide something into the oven and it comes out almost like that. I didn't make up the skull ahead of time because I thought you might want to see the actual process. So that's what I've done. I've actually already cut out all of the shapes. Oh, and a little secret. If tracing all of these shapes and then cutting them out with scissors is like, whoa, Tammy, way too labor intensive for me. Here's my secret. I used my silhouette. That's right. If you download those patterns and then convert them to JPEGs, which you can do with a PDF, you know that, right? You open up your PDF, you do save as, and you select image, and then you select JPEG from your image options. Well, guess what? Now you have images that you can import into your silhouette and then follow the silhouette instructions, and this beautiful magic little machine will cut all of those shapes out for you. I kid you not. It's amazing. All right, so whether you do your shapes with the old-fashioned way, one at a time, tracing them and cutting them out with scissors, or whether you do them with the silhouette, here's what you're going to have. So maybe you can see, I've already cut them out with the silhouette, and what I used was I used that release paper. Remember the other side of the steam machine? I used the release paper as like a way to collect all of these. So here's my orange shapes, and my red shapes, and my black shapes, and my purple. You get the idea. So I have all of my shapes already collected. I've got them all cut out, and now I'm ready to create my sugar skull. All right, Now when you start doing this, here's a little tip from me to you. Regardless of what surface you're working on, I highly recommend that you use a Teflon sheet, okay? Now, I see scrapbookers use these because they're great for stamping on, because you can stamp all around, and as your ink gets over on the edges, you can just wipe it right off and it protects your surface. But guess what? Stampers and crafters, you can use these Teflon sheets for ironing as well. That's right, because if you put this Teflon sheet on your ironing board and then you go to iron all of these little sticky shapes, if you get something off the edge, you're not going to get sticky all over your ironing board, and your ironing board is still good for other projects, or for those that iron their clothes. There you go. You don't want sticky on your clothes. So, put your Teflon sheet down. We're going to take our base fabric. Remember that big piece of black fabric that we cut that was large enough to cover our canvas and wrap around? Now, one of the things you want to do is you want to find your center, because it would really be crushing if you put your sugar skull up here in the top corner and then couldn't wrap it around the canvas. So, you can lightly fold it in half lengthwise. So we're going to do the whole hamburger hot dog thing. So we're going to fold it in half lengthwise and lightly finger crease. And then we're going to fold it in half widthwise. We're going to lightly finger crease. And now, even though you can't see it, trust me, there's a little crease right here, so I'm able to see here's the center of my square. Now, why do I want that? Because when I start my sugar skull, I want to put my sugar skull in the center. Now, I'm going to throw out a couple of options for you. Option number one, you could throw caution to the wind, live on the edge, and go ahead and start layering your sugar skull directly on your base fabric. You could do that. Me, I'm a little more cautious. So what am I going to do? Even though I've got the center marked on my base fabric, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to layer on my Teflon sheet, because remember I told you you could iron on it. So I can take my skull, which I've already cut, okay, and I can lay it on my Teflon sheet, and I can smooth it out nice and flat, and then basically I can start layering right now. I can start creating my shapes. Now, you're going to have the pattern and you're going to have something to follow, a color picture, so you know where everything goes. So you want to have that out so you can look at it. I'm going to cheat a little bit and I'm going to use my real sugar skull, but I'm going to start placing my motifs. And I'm going to do this before I start ironing everything down. Again, a little suggestion from me to you. I would not recommend placing something and then immediately ironing it down. I get it, I get it. You want to get it done and you're so excited, and this is so easy because it's basically you're cutting and gluing. I mean, how simple is that? It's like kindergarten and those crayon moments all over again. I love the smell of crayons, don't you? Nothing takes me back, but I really recommend placing your motifs before you start ironing. Now, like I said, I get that this isn't zoomed in, but you kind of get the idea. You can kind of see that I'm kind of futzing around with these shapes as I'm working with them. And to give you an idea, you want to see it in progress. I am laying out the dragonfly wings right now. Okay, that's what I'm doing. And I want to make sure that I'm happy with the placement. Now, because I'm working on the Teflon sheet, what I can do is I can actually layer all of these shapes and then iron at one time and get all of the shapes down like I want them. And that's going to make sure that my eyes aren't way down around the ears or my mouth isn't up here under the nose. I can test it out and see, do I like where everything is in relation to the other shapes? And here's the other thing, and I tell all of my quilting students this, and I truly do mean it. And those of you that are watching, if you've taken a class from me, you know the words that are about to come out of my mouth. It's your, okay, it's not your quilt, but it's your project. So if you want something different than what you see on the pattern, go for it. For example, This is mine. This is Butterfly Dreams. If you think, well, the little flowers are just too zinnia, too traditional, and Tammy, I want some violets over there, or I'm thinking daisies, you go for it. It is your project. You know what? This is just a starting point for you. And that's what laying everything out does for you. It gives you the opportunity to kind of play around with it, to kind of move things around. If you want your sugar skull to be winking instead of looking at people with a full gaze, go for it. You know what? It's yours. It's going to be hanging in your house or whoever you give it to, that lucky individual that's getting a handmade gift. So you do what you want with it. But that's why I like laying everything out ahead of time. So I'm going to show you an example. I've put the base of the dragonfly down, and then I put the eyes. All right, now, if you look at this really carefully, those eyes are really low. Like, they're down around the ears. Not exactly what would be ideal. But by looking at it and kind of stepping back from it, I can see that and go, no, not exactly where I wanted that to be. And then I can do that with my lips. Sugar skulls have great teeth. Have you ever noticed that? I wonder why dentists don't have more sugar skulls hanging up in their office. Because, wow, talk about pearly whites, right? All right. Yeah. That's just my sick kind of humor. Sorry about that. All right, so I'm putting the mouth on, and I'm working on the nose. And I want to see where everything is going to be in relation to each other, just to give you an idea of how super duper easy this is. This is the fun part. This is kind of like, I don't know, like a paint by number, or oh, I love that, what is that clay? That Sculpey that kind of dries. You can air dry and you can kind of play with it. Love that. So this is kind of like that. You've got all the pieces, and now you're putting them together to see how everything is going to work. So just using my existing sugar skull as my guide. But I'm going to hang on just a second, and I'm going to show you where I'm at with this so you get a real feel for how this is working. Okay, so right now he looks kind of ghoulish because those big blue eyes, I mean, seriously, they are more than Betty Davis eyes going on right now. But you get an idea. You can see I've got my eyes on there. I've got the mouth. Looking at it, holding it up for you, I see 1, the mouth is a little over to this side, and 2, seems a little high to me. So I can still play around with it because I haven't ironed anything down. So again, really, really, really do that delayed gratification thing and play around with these things and see, do you like where everything is? Because you might find, as you get all of the flower petals on there, hey, I need to move the eyes closer in, or I need to spread them out because I've got some spaces going on. And this really gives you that opportunity to play around with those kinds of things. So I'm just putting the petals on, and in fact, great example, teachable moment here. I'm going to show you my eyes, not my eyes, my skull's eyes, are not quite where they need to be, because if I leave my skull and all of the placement exactly where it's at, can you see what's going on right here? Okay, the eyes need to come up and over a little bit so that they are avoiding those petals, because that just is not going to work. It's kind of like having an eyelash in your eye. Not going to work. All right, so I'm going to move these bad boys up a little bit, out of the way. Think actually what part of my problem is, now that I'm starting to get everything laid down, is that my dragonfly is a little crooked. But hey, see how I'm just pulling these things up and I'm able to reposition them? Okay, you're kind of getting the idea, and you're getting a little excited about this, aren't you? Are you starting to think, I think I could do this. I'm not a quilter, but hey, I can cut out fabric. I can peel and stick. It's like playing with stickers. I can do this. Absolutely you can. Absolutely you can. This is a fun, easy project So even if you are a quilter, but you're like, hey, and I get this a lot, people go, that's the A word. We're not doing applique. Thank you, no. Well, I don't do A word either. Traditional applique, I get you. I'm right there with you. I got tons of want to do's on my list and not enough time to do them all. But hey, I love, love, love fused applique. It is totally my jam. So, all right, I'm going to put the butterfly wings on here just so you can see what the eye kind of looks like to give you an idea. Obviously, I'm guessing most of you are not wanting to hang around the whole time watching me put this together because you're like, okay, we got it, we got it, we got it. And I do see, I'm going to let y'all know, I see that some people are commenting, and I'm going to be honest, I can see that there's words up there, but you know what? Can't really read them. But I am going to be saving this video. I'll be posting it to my Facebook page later on, and if you had any questions or comments, I will be looking at those and responding to them, I promise. So let me know what you want to know, what you liked, what you didn't like, and if you're doing this sugar skull, you know what? You need to join the Fiesta de Azucar 2017 Facebook group. Go ahead and join the group, and here's why you want to join. Because we're giving away prizes. That's right. So the block hop is going on for a few more weeks. We just released block 8. That was Susan Emery of Swirly Girls. Hers was hella cute. I'm not going to lie. Oh my goodness. The girl is so incredibly clever and talented. But we still have one more new block to post, and then Terri Sontra of Purple Moose Designs and I will be offering different border options. Now, I know what you're thinking, Tammy, I thought you said this was for non-quilters. Non-quilter, not doing a border, but hey, guess what? Those borders have motifs in them. So motifs, shapes. What if you wanted to take those shapes and put them on a canvas as well? You certainly could. And then do you know what you can do? You can post onto the Facebook group your finished projects, and all of the designers are going to be voting on their favorites, and we have some awesome prize packages. Kid you not. In fact, I think there is a mug that as it heats up, the sugar skull appears. Woo woo, that's pretty cool. I think there's a pair of sugar skull socks. I could be wrong about the socks. Maybe it's leggings. But anyway, there's a bunch of different things, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So even if you're not a quilter, hey, you like this, you're thinking, I can peel and stick, I can iron, I can make a canvas art sugar skull, absolutely, then hey, go ahead and do it. So almost got the butterfly wings on. Promise, just to give you an idea, but you can see once you get the cutting done, the cutting is really the labor intensive part of this. Once you get the cutting done, then pulling these little shapes off, kind of like pulling them off a sticker sheet and putting them down, really, really fun. So I want you to see what excuse me, what this looks like to give you an idea. Oh, that's what I did. I'm not going to have all the nitty-gritty little details, but you're going to get the basic idea of what this bad boy would look like if this were your very own cut and fuse sugar skull. So I've got the basic pieces in place. Well, bam. All right, so what would it look like on canvas? Well, let me show you. All right, so let's assume, just for a minute, we're just pretending because it's nowhere near done. So I'm going to take my canvas, and I didn't bring my stapler up, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to washi tape. How many of you love washi tape? Oh my gosh, I love washi tape. I use it for die cutting. I use it to hold maybe quilt picks up while I'm working on a pattern, but I use washi tape to hold tons of stuff in place for me. It is amazing. But I'm just going to tape this canvas down real quick to give you a rough idea of what this would look like. If this were the real deal, what I would be doing is I would be folding this fabric over and using a staple gun. Please don't try to do this with your little home stapler. You might just hurt yourself, and that would be terrible. Yeah, borrow a staple gun or go get a staple gun. Might as well get one, because I'm telling you, I have done so many fun things with wrapping fabric around canvas. So easy, and it looks like so much more than it really is. You find a great piece of fabric and you're like, what can I do with that? Hey, wrap it around a canvas and you've got instant wall art, and you can change it out. How cool is that? So anyway, all right, so here's what I've done. You can see I've just kind of taped it, but if this were the real deal, I would take my staple gun, I would make sure my corners were uber perfect. You know how like when you wrap a present and you get those nice square corners, and then I would staple all the way around so that my canvas is nice and smooth. Okay, now I would not have done this until my sugar skull was on the canvas and ironed down. See if I can get him kind of centered. Now again, he's not finished, so no judgment yet, all right? He'll look much, much better when he is finished. But this is going to give you a rough idea of what your fabulous sugar skull would look like if you did the whole cut and fuse technique, which you see is super user-friendly, right? Well, bam, look at that. Pretty stinking cute, right? Now I got a few more pieces to put on there and get into place, and then I would iron them down with my iron. Now I use my iron set to as hot as it will go, which is usually a wool setting with lots of steam, because hey, I don't know if you caught it or not, but the name of the fusible is Steam-A-Seam, so it likes steam. But I would iron over my motif for a little while and make sure that I get all of that fusible, that glue, melted and sunk into that fabric. Now, one of the things, and I want you to look kind of close, okay, one of the things on here is I did stitching. Now you're like, Tammy, we're not quilters. Hello, we're not doing stitching. No problem. Did you know that you can use a Sharpie on fabric? Why, yes, you can. You can use a Sharpie on fabric. And did you know that these bad boys come in multiple colors? Why, yes, they do. Most of your office supply stores and your arts and crafts stores are going to have tons of colors. So if you didn't want to do the stitching on your sugar skull, but you wanted the look of stitching, you could certainly do that with your fine tip Sharpie. And you could draw additional images on there and create the vines and whatever stitch look you wanted to. But do you see how easy this is? So Fiesta de Azucar is not only for quilters, okay? When you see fusible applique projects now, go and buy yourself some fabric, some Steam-A-Seam, and create your own individual works of art. Doesn't have to be a quilt block. Anybody can do this. And hey, if you're so inclined, you know what? You could do this in paper as well. Absolutely. You do not have to do it in fabric, although I think fabric's pretty awesome, I'm not gonna lie. So I hope this has helped you. I hope you've gotten some inspiration. I hope you're excited about doing some fusible applique or some fusible fabric art. And I hope you'll join the Fiesta de Azucar blog, and I hope we're gonna see some of your projects posted there. I look forward to your comments, and I look forward to seeing your projects. And I usually say happy stitching at this point, but you know what? Happy creating. Thanks for joining me.